I hope you don't get the sickness.
My boy Kurt is a stay-at-home dad, watching Disney movies he never had. His daughter digs through all the VHS, crushing the classics in a princess dress. Informed like Scuttle, Kurt's got your ticket, making it real like Jiminy Cricket. Most off the Captain Hook, but if the Tweedledum, he'll be taking more shots than Bambi's mom. Leaves him raised like Simba, or cracked like the beast dishes. He'll show you a whole new world, you won't need 3 wishes. Stay-at-home Disney dad.
All right, the last time I wore this Ebenezer Scrooge outfit was December of 2013 when I was employed, but had one foot out the door, at a local TV station where part of my job was I produced and hosted a 1-hour music show called Strip Down every week. Every year, we did a Christmas show that got more and more wild as the years went on, and this particular year, 2013, as I mentioned, I had one foot out the door with this company, so while I didn't want to get fired, I wasn't exactly against the idea of losing my job at the time. So for the 2013 Christmas special, we recreated A Christmas Carol that ended with me as Scrooge getting tackled through the Christmas set. This has nothing to do with Mickey's Christmas Carol, just, when something happens that transports you back to a time of your life you hadn't thought about in years. That's what happened to me today. Putting this on made me remember standing there on live TV, waiting for a football player named Jordan, playing the Ghost of Christmas Future, to spear me through the Christmas trees. Warm memories. Okay, back to the show. I didn't realize the importance of this short until today. When this dropped in 1983, it was the first time Mickey Mouse was in a Disney animated anything for 30 years. I didn't know any of the history until I watched this making of mini doc that was on the end of the video, but even before I knew all that, I have to say this is by far the greatest Disney short the company has ever produced. The first time I saw this was in that little room in the church basement I attended as a kid. I talked about that a couple of weeks ago, but Christmas Carol itself is a great story as is. And out of all the animated versions, and there has to be like 20 to 25 by now, this is the best one by a mile. This is Christmas. This is my childhood. I watched this so many times over the years and I've loved it every time. It's ageless. I found an original release on VHS and I'm very excited because I gotta assume, as dark as the version that made it onto all the Disney Christmas compilations since like the 90s, there has to be some uncomfortable scenes that were cut as violence and disturbing moments were removed from these old cartoons as we moved forward. We shall see if anything has been removed over time. We press play. We start with brown tinted still pictures from the show with credits over top. I love this, so effective. Such an 80s sounding Christmas hymn plays over the intro. The last still comes to life and the camera zooms from the housetops down to the streets. It turns full color. It's snowing. We meet Scrooge and the first thing he does is deny a beggar a penny. He gets to his office. His partner, Jacob Marley, dead 7 years ago today. Again, I have seen so many versions of this story, and this Disney one is in an absolute league of its own. The tone this cartoon sets off the top is just perfect. It's flawless. He laughs that Marley left him enough money for his tombstone, and Scrooge had him buried at sea instead. Inside, we meet Bob Cratchit, played by a returning Mickey Mouse, and he gets busted trying to steal a piece of coal to keep warm. Great shot from Mickey's perspective, where Scrooge points his cane at him and like tracks him across the room. Tomorrow is Christmas, and Mickey asks for the day off, and Scrooge agrees to half a day without pay. This makes Mickey happy. Scrooge just sits at his desk, counting his coins, and in comes Donald Duck in a rare casting moment. He comes in all happy because he loves Christmas. This makes sense when you follow the Christmas Carol story because this character is Scrooge's nephew, and in Disney, yes, Scrooge's nephew is Donald. However, Donald would go on to consistently hate Christmas in every short from here on in. But right now in 1983, Donald loves Christmas. He comes in with a wreath. Scrooge bah humbugs Donald and Mickey and says anyone who thinks Christmas is a special day should be boiled in their own Christmas pudding. I also think what makes this short so perfect is that there's no over-the-top unrealistic violence or sound effects. The actions and movements are so rooted in reality. When he finally kicks Donald out of his office, he doesn't fly across the street and do 2 somersaults and land in the snow, you know? I kind of just realized there's none of that in the short right now. Amazing. Donald sneaks back in and hangs the wreath on the door, then runs away. Up next, Mole and the Mouse from Mr. Toad come in and they're collecting for the poor. Scrooge is ready though. He points out that if he gives money to the poor, they won't be poor, and then these two will be out of a job. Then he kicks them out as well, and all this kicking out has made him tired. I know I'm a broken record, but the darkness of the colors, the blacks and the blues against the snow, all of this is just amazing background animation. Gives it such a feel. Scrooge lets Mickey go 2 minutes early because it's Christmas Eve. Great exterior of an old clock tower in the night and snow. Scrooge is finally leaving work. Beautiful, dark, snowy city street. Scrooge gets home and his door knocker turns into Jacob Marley's face, played by Goofy. Once inside, Scrooge begins up the stairs and his shadow becomes Goofy dragging chains. As a child, this is right on the line of horrifying, but they keep it light enough with Goofy as a bumbler ghost. Goofy Ghost Marley is absolute money. They made an official ornament of him, and I hang that on our tree each year with much pride. Once again, Marley has a kerchief wrapped around his jaw. That's in every version, and in only one animated story did I see Marley remove it, and then his jaw was like broken and it like hung down. Terrifying. It was like one from the 70s, I think. Marley says he was such a jerk in real life that now he has to drag these chains for all of eternity. Jacob tells Scrooge that tonight he will be visited by 3 spirits and he should listen to them, and then he falls down the stairs. As soon as the spirit is gone, Scrooge gets ready for bed, he checks under his bed, and then he just disregards the whole thing. Suddenly we hear something and the camera shot like searches the room to find it. Great. And he zooms in on it. It's Jiminy Cricket, the ghost of Christmas past. Scrooge says he thought he would be taller. He opens the window and to the storm and he grabs Scrooge and takes off flying. Thanks to Jiminy's umbrella. I love this part. Jiminy's soaring through the dark, stormy sky. He asks why Scrooge is scared. I thought you liked looking down on the world. He takes him to the past, and it's Fizzywinks. His old boss, Fizzywink, is throwing a Christmas party. And I'm watching this for the first time after sitting through 116 other Disney movies. And I realized that this crowd of characters isn't just like random new characters. These are actual Disney B characters from other movies of the era. I love that. Fizzywig is Mr. Toad, which makes sense because he likes to party hard. Over in the corner of the flashback is young man Scrooge and lonely Isabel, played by Daisy Duck. She drags him under the mistletoe and girl is good to go. Chip and Dale are dancing. Huey, Dewey, and Louie are decorating the tree. Daisy kisses him, or Isabel kisses him, and everything is perfect. Outside the window, Scrooge is happy. It says he remembers how much he loved her. Cricket says, 10 years later, you learn to love something else. 10 years later, he breaks her heart and he won't marry her because, quote, you loved your gold more than this precious creature, and you lost her forever. Scrooge has had enough and begs not to see this anymore. Then he wakes up in his bedroom, and before we can do the was it a dream thing, we meet the ghost of Christmas Present, played by the giant from Mickey and the Beanstalk. He takes up Scrooge's whole room, and the leftover space is covered with the food of generosity. He lifts the roof, takes Scrooge and steps outside, where he proceeds to grab a street lamp and use it as a flashlight. Also money. He walks across town and drops him in front of Cratchit's house. Scrooge can't believe how little food they have, but they are all so happy. Here we go. One of the first gut punches I can remember getting as a kid. The story arc of Tiny Tim. See, Tim's gonna die. When you first roll that around in your brain as a kid, you remember that darkness for a while. Then it disappears and the fog rolls in. As Scrooge emerges from the fog, he realizes he's in a graveyard, and Black Pete is terrifying as the ghost of Christmas future and terrifyingly quiet. Scrooge asks him what's going to happen to Tiny Tim, and we see Mickey laying a crutch on the gravestone. Tiny Tim is dead. He's dead, Scrooge, and you practically killed him. Then we see the weasels from Mr. Toad filling in a grave and laughing at how unloved this particular deceased person is. Scrooge asks, whose lonely grave is this? This is good stuff. Why, it's yours, Ebenezer, the richest man in the cemetery, replies Black Pete, and he tosses him in. Terrifying. The bottom of the grave opens up and it's hell, and Scrooge is clawing and scraping at the side, trying not to be sucked into hell as he falls and screams that he'll change. He wakes up on the floor of his bedroom, relieved it was a dream. He throws open the windows and he's just so damn happy to be alive. And you can't blame him. I mean, legit. How happy are you, even as an adult, when you wake up from a nightmare, right? There's nothing better than that moment when you were suddenly like half awake but still half in the nightmare, and you get to choose to leave the nightmare, and that moment of realization that those events weren't real. Oh, best feeling in the world. Anyway, Scrooge is ecstatic. He's a new man. He gets dressed and he finds Mr. Toad's friends and makes it rain 100 gold pieces for charity. No one knows what to do with happy Scrooge as he parades down the street. He finds Donald and says he will indeed come for supper. Donald is riding Ichabod's horse? Question mark? That should have been a question. That's wonderful if he is. I don't know. Scrooge then bangs on Cratchit's door and goes into character and pretends he's dropping off another bag of clothes for him to wash. But then swerve, it's actually a bag of toys for the kids, and he makes Bob Cratchit his partner with the business. Merry Christmas, Bob, and God bless us, everyone. Freeze frame. The music starts again, and we get the end. I love this short so much. But a little disappointed there wasn't any like sketchy scenes that had to be edited out as time went on. Then we go to the making of the documentary. Real footage, a rotary phone is ringing. An animated Jiminy Cricket answers the real phone. It's the boss and he's like, you always wanted to produce a movie, make a Christmas one. Ask Mickey and his gang to come back, but watch the budget. Sounds like a boss, all right. Now we got a voiceover. It was the early 80s and Mickey Mouse hadn't made a cartoon in 30 years, like I mentioned. This was the birth of Mickey's Christmas Carol. They handed the reins to some Bernie guy who started with the company 30 years ago in the mailroom. That's nice. Bernie Madison was the producer-director who was responsible for ushering Mickey back into the mainstream in 1983. It was his job to match the Disney characters to the famous Dickens characters. He explains how he brought back Jiminy Cricket and the Giant and Black Pete. Madison says, lots of people don't remember Black Pete, but he comes off quite well. You think? The dance, they bring back several characters, as I mentioned. Back to Jiminy, Mickey's at the country club. An animated Mickey answers Jiminy's call and agrees to do it. Madison matches up characters with animators. He had all the characters on pieces of paper and he tossed them in the air and all the animators fought each other to get the ones they wanted. Is that for real? No, he matched them up with the characters they enjoyed. Okay, Bernie looks like Al from Tool Time. The silly, like, DuckTales music bed they're using does not match the tone of this making of video. They recap the history of Mickey Mouse and point out that he's been faithful to one girl his whole life. Hey, he never cheated on Minnie. Glad we finally have closure for that question everyone was curious about. Mickey is so uncomplicated and easy to understand that you cannot not like him. Is that why people like me? We get a tour of the animated research library. Holy crap, this is intense. Just rows and rows of files and files. Animator Mark Henn takes us through the evolution of the Mickey Mouse animation. I feel like this mini doc should be more widely distributed. We discuss how only 3 people had voiced Mickey Mouse so far. I mean, this is great and all, but now I'm turning on it. It's losing me. I didn't want to talk about this today. I wanted to only talk about Mickey's Christmas Carol, not the whole history of the character. Okay. Anyway, I Googled it, and this short actually wasn't well received when it dropped. Siskel and Ebert giving it 2 thumbs down. Wow. I don't know what to tell you, folks. It's not all childhood nostalgia. This short is phenomenal. And in my opinion, it's above Grinch, Charlie Brown, Frosty and Rudolph as the greatest cartoon ever made for Christmas. The greatest Christmas cartoon ever made is what I meant to say. Merry Christmas.
What do you think?
What we have is a concern about Curtis Anderson. His interviewing style is not the best. His personal appearance is not the best. I was wondering if the man has some kind of a hold over the channel that he's allowed to be employed for so long with the standards of journalism and personal appearance